Okay, here's our interview with Phyllida Lloyd. In 1999, Phyllida Lloyd, one of Britain's most respected theater directors, got her hands on a new musical inspired by the infectious tunes of pop group ABBA, and a worldwide sensation was born. Mamma Mia has delighted many tens of millions of audience members across the globe, and now, under the direction of Miss Lloyd, it makes its way to the big screen in what is certain to be the feel-good hit of the year. Starring Meryl Streep, Pierce Brosnan, and a host of exceptionally talented actors, Mamma Mia marks Miss Lloyd's first feature film in a career that has seen her flourish as one of the most talented and versatile theater and opera directors in the world. It is a great pleasure to welcome to the show this remarkable artist, Miss Phyllida Lloyd. I'm sorry, I got jumbled up on that first name. How are you, Miss Lloyd?
Fine, that's okay. No, I'm a bit jumbled up too. I just landed from Los Angeles, having just delivered the answer print of the movie. So with only 2 weeks to go before the premiere, that's kind of a little bit close to the wire.
Yeah, so it's all finished, and you're premiering it in the UK first, right? July 1st?
Yes, actually, yes, on June the 30th.
Okay, wow, it's just around the corner. Well, how does this feel for you? I mean, it has to be your first big film. It has to be nerve-wracking and exciting, all things at one time, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it feels a bit like a dream, actually. I just can't quite believe I'm here, and I mean, I can't believe it's finished. I think that's perhaps the best aspect of the dream at the moment. But yeah, if you'd asked me, 10 years ago whether I would, I'd be directing a sort of so-called Hollywood blockbuster, I think I'd have probably said, that's the sort of stuff of dreams.
Right. So this was never part of your, and you've started in the theater and the stage. So this feature films were never a part of your career trajectory necessarily. You never gave it any thought.
Well, no, I did give it thought. I have directed one film for television, and I did start my career working for the BBC in sort of as one of the lowest forms of life when I left college. So my sort of, I've always had a real sort of passion and appetite for film, but I sort of went off into the theatre world, and I was always imagining that one day I would find, the story that somehow only I could tell on screen, and I think that's what I feel you need that amount of conviction that you are the only one who can do it, to take on these kind of projects. But the Mamma Mia sort of journey has been just a very extraordinary one, and it was not a project that I conceived. It was the idea, the brainchild of our producer Judy Kramer, who dreamt up the idea of using the songs for a stage musical, and I was brought on to that project 10 years ago, and though during the years of it running in the theatre, we often talked about it as a movie, I think I imagined that it would end up in the hands of some more reliable directors, maybe.
So take me back to that time when you were first given the book for given the Mamma Mia project. What drew you to it right away? What did you see in it?
Well, I think first of all, the personalities of the other two women involved. In Judy and Catherine, the writer and producer, are both girls we're all the same age, and therefore we've kind of been born of the same sort of cultural sort of reference points. And secondly, the songs. I mean, I was never a huge ABBA fan in my youth. I sort of went from the Beatles via a very sort of curious and exclusive girls' boarding school where, it was a bit of a sort of twilight zone in terms of contemporary music. But then I emerged from that into the world of punk and never really got seriously into ABBA. But as soon as I began to really consider the songs as parts of drama, I realized that what they have in their catalogue that a lot of other bands don't have is sort of stories and stories within the songs, and that as soon as we started workshopping the material, you could take a song like The Winner Takes It All and ask an actor to sing it to another actor, and suddenly you were in not just a scene in which one person was trying to do something to the other, but you suddenly had a scene and history. And so I could immediately see their potential for the stage. I mean, a lot of people have tried since, to turn bands' catalogues into shows, and it's really not worked. And I think it's the fundamental thing, that Bjorn was really writing stories about their lives, and that the songs had a shape. They began with sort of more youthful, sort of disco, uncomplicated songs, and moved into this sort of darker period as their own relationships began to mature and then subsequently break down. All that aside, Catherine, the writer, I think, had a hugely difficult job to first of all to find a structure, and then to really sort of breathe life into the characters. And it was, it took a long time of development and workshops to really make it sort of come alive. And we approached it with great sort of trepidation and humility, and had absolutely no idea that it was going to be the sort of smash hit that it was.
And it really is. I mean, we're talking about people that are rabid for the show. They go back to see it 6 or 7 times.
Yeah,
you talk about the seamlessness of the music and the narrative strengths of the songs, and is that what you attribute that kind of level of relation between the audience and show?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's partly that almost every song is a hit. Most musicals strive to have one hit or 2 hits, but to have almost every song as a great song is unusual. Secondly, I think when you look around at musicals, certainly in Europe, maybe not so much in the States, but it's amazing how many musicals are nostalgic, are set in, for the sake of the exercise, 19th century France, or they're set not in the here and now. And I think one of the things that Mamma Mia audiences love is that it's themselves on stage, and because it's 2 generations, so all ages can really relate to something on the stage, and it's very there's a kind of warts and all sort of homely kind of chaos about what you see in front of you. It's not all slick and idealized. And I think somehow people really just, they just see themselves, and they see themselves, jumping around, singing pop songs into a Coke can or a deodorant. And that's what, that's the connection.
We have a question from Adam, one of our listeners. He wants to know if you were at all trepidatious about taking on the feature film project of Mamma Mia when this came about for you.
Terrified. I mean, but in the same measure, I mean, terrified, and also with a sense that on some level I'm the keeper of the keys. I'm the one who knows what's, Catherine obviously knows because she wrote it, and Benny and Bjorn, but I'm the one who knows how to get what's at the essence of it onto the screen, or that's what I believe. So it's a mixture of kind of fear and passion.
Yeah, and tell me about that process. I know you're asked this a lot because obviously you did both the stage and the film version. But tell me about the process of opening it up for the film medium. Did it feel like you were going back from square one with it?
Well, I think the first thing was that unlike some musicals that have really struggled to find a place on the screen, say shows that are set, in an office or an apartment block or even a theatre, Mamma Mia is set on a Greek island, it already is a location. It's already got a landscape that you can start imagining. And so in some ways, immediately you started to think about it as a movie. It started to take flight. It's a bit like, opening a cage with a bird inside, and you immediately saw it, fly out and take you on a journey. So Catherine and I began just trying to reimagine it, and I did, I think, sort of take her down some. We had some excursions that were ones we felt we had to have. In the end, we came back to perhaps something closer in structure to the stage show, but I hope the audience will feel there's nothing remotely stagey or theatrical about it. It is a sort of truly cinematic experience, I hope. But I think we were lucky with the sort of starting point and the premise for that, and of course the actors.
Well, the actors, we're going to get to that in just a second. You could not ask for a better cast. In terms of this being, the first major film project that you've undertaken, what scared you the most? I mean, what did you feel least secure about?
Everything, really. I think that. I'm sure for every movie director, the first day is a terrifying thing, and but I think the thing that went on being sort of very pressurizing was that sort of all governing aspect of movie making, which is time, and whether you can deliver the goods in the time you have. And with no experience behind me, or almost none, not knowing whether you're kind of, I don't know, working in the way you should be. So a lot of the fear, it's just fear of the unknown, really. But making the day, making the schedule is the really scary thing. And of course, inevitably, you have more vested interests as the budget. I'm from a world of what we call in Britain sort of subsidized theatre, which is state-subsidized theatre, where nobody stands really to make a profit. And it's amazing how much creative freedom that gives to artists. Somebody asks you if you want to do a play in their theatre, you ask what date do we start, you ask what the budget is, and you get on and do it. And nobody really interferes. And of course, as economic stakes get higher, then people are, more and more people are wanting to know what you're doing, and I wouldn't say interfere, but just make sure you don't make a choice that they disapprove of. Right, and I think, keeping hold of the heart of the thing and not allowing oneself to be bumped off what one thought to be the real course was also, that was challenging and frightening at times.
So you mentioned your dynamite cast, and talk about daunting. Meryl Streep, she's front and center in your film. How do you direct Meryl Streep? What does she require from a director?
Well, I think that Meryl comes more prepared than anybody I ever worked with. I mean, more prepared, with more ideas and more ambition for the possibilities of the project and the scene in front of her, not just the scene in front of her, but the thing as a whole. So she's able to offer up just an infinite number of options. And I think what she, seems to require is clarity. What are we trying to achieve? Do we have a shared vision about what it is? And then she will just give you everything you could imagine and more. She would do 10 takes of something completely differently and then ask you, what do you want? Now what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So it's a bit like just being offered up a kind of infinite range of possibilities for any one moment. And, you know, from her great comic gifts to the huge emotional range that she has, and an absolutely belting singing voice.
Yeah, I understand that she did her big number, the Winner Takes All, in one take. Is that true?
Not quite, no. She didn't do it in one take, but she did it. We shot it in a very short time, but that's because she was so extraordinarily prepared, both technically and emotionally, for that moment. And it was the sort of climax, you know, it's the climax of the emotional journey of the movie, and it was almost the climax of our shoot. And it was the one thing I was having waking nightmares about how I was going to shoot. But somehow, as soon as I watched her rehearse it, you know, just in a kind of her own clothes, on the edge of a cliff on a day when we couldn't shoot, when it was all dull and rainy, I sort of knew what I had to do, which is just really capture the sort of just incredible naked truth of her performance.
Yeah. There was a rehearsal period, I'm sure.
There was, and frankly, I mean, the actors obviously had to learn the choreography and were working on the songs were pre-recorded, even though we went on to sing live and on set. But yes, thank goodness we had a rehearsal period, which was my absolute lifeline, because even though I had gone out before starting that rehearsal period and worked with actors from the London theatre show with my DV camera and just shot a lot of the movie myself and edited it first, because I just thought, unless I get that camera in my hand, I'm never going to know where it's going, how it's moving, and what the kind of energy and sort of just the rhythm and tempo of each of the songs and scenes. So the combination of that work that I was allowed to do first and the rehearsal period enabled me to be a little more focused about what we were doing. I don't know how, you know, directors go in and just shoot movies with no rehearsal whatsoever.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We just did a show on Sidney Lumet, and he's one of the few directors that every film out he requires 2 to 3 weeks rehearsal, and it's amazing what an alien concept that is for most filmmakers.
Well, I mean, what I think, apart from, you know, my own inadequacies and my own needs, were, you know, that what came up during that rehearsal period was an amazing contribution from the actors, a sense of help, you know, how are we going to do this? How can we best get to the heart of the scene? Does the scene need rewriting? Catherine was involved, collaborating with the actors. And a kind of, also a sort of ensemble grew amongst the actors.
Right.
So that, you know, when we got to, Colin Firth had said to me, oh, you know, you see on a screenplay a stage direction like everybody not jumps for joy, but, you know, everybody is completely jubilant, and your heart sinks and you think, oh my God, you know, how are we going to get to that moment in a movie on a set? But actually with this group, you know, for example, when Julie Walters had to jump up on the table and start singing Take a Chance on Me, and I asked the company to, you know, celebrate that moment with whooping and screaming. I mean, there was literally no acting required, because there had, you know, a company spirit had been born. And everybody knew who they were celebrating and felt, you know, they didn't need instruction as to how to do it. So the rehearsal was, I think, a really fantastic investment on every level.
Yeah. I just have a couple more questions to ask you. I would be remiss to not ask you about the part of Sophie, which seems like such a critical role to cast, and I understand you looked at some of the biggest young stars for that role. What qualities were you ultimately looking for from the actress you wanted to cast for that role?
You have to have, for Sophie, an actress with whom the audience immediately fall in love. I mean, the proposition is so insane that she's going to invite 3 complete strangers to her wedding and find out which one of them is her father. And that unless you have an actress who has that winning personality and a sort of adorable quality, you're kind of sunk. So we were looking for someone, with an innocence, with a charm, and with a spectacular singing voice, because as we'd learnt over the last decade, singing I Have a Dream, for example, is one of the most difficult things in pop, and even great singers kind of really stumbled at the tuning of that song. And we auditioned a number of people on both sides of the Atlantic. But when Amanda came in and sang for us, it was just one of those moments where you could feel everyone in the room and the guys, the recording engineers in the studio, just look at each other as if this is the one. And when I took the tapes of Amanda to Stockholm to play to Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus, Benny listened to Amanda sing and pulled up the shirt on his arm and just showed me, the hairs on his arm standing on end, which sort of just was, she's the one.
She's remarkable. She really is.
Yeah.
A remarkable actress. And so ABBA, the group was in tune with this project from the beginning? I mean, they were on board every step of the way?
Well, I think way back, they when Judy went to them and said what she wanted to do, they were anxious about whether this could work, whether it would be viewed as a sort of just cynical attempt to exploit already highly successful songs. And they were very rigorous about wanting to make sure that the writer that they found to work with really had got to the, found something that was worth saying, I think, fundamentally.
Right.
But they have been, fantastically generous collaborators. And Benny has been doing apart from recording the soundtrack album, producing the soundtrack album for the movie, he's also written all the incidental music. So he's been, just part of the team, and we've just been in New York for 6 weeks at the Brill Building, mixing our sound with him. And they've been, they've been like the rest of us, absolute rookies in the world of, this world of major feature films, and but just approached it with great kind of a mixture again of humility and sort of excitement about the project.
Yeah, I would have to think this has to be a major cathartic experience for them. I mean, from the beginning of this project to the film now, it has to be incredible for them. Before I let you go, I'd like to ask you about the look of the film, because I know the relationship between director and DP is so important. And tell me who you chose as your DP and what that relationship entails.
Yes, my DP is Haris Zambaloukas, who is Greek Cypriot, brilliant young DP based in London, although he trained in California and was for a long time. He worked as an apprentice under Conrad Hall, and he
shot Branagh's Sleuth, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and
wow.
Venus, Roger Michel's movie Venus, and he's just very ambitious, very kind of highly cultured and intelligent, gentle, very collaborative, and was, a fantastic help for me. And we actually had to keep pinching ourselves that he happened to be Greek. Here we were in Greece, trying to negotiate how to get into a field, or just sort of it's quite a challenge being in a European country in some quite rural areas, negotiating our way around. But Harris was, he was our key to a lot of things, aside from the beauty of the film. But I think he just had very incredibly high standards for how he wanted it to look, and it was just a brilliant guy.
The film is Mamma Mia. It opens up in the States on July 18th, correct?
Actually, yes, it does, yes.
Okay. I cannot wait. And Miss Lloyd, thank you so much for spending your time with us today, and I am so excited for you. This is going to be a huge success, and you absolutely deserve it. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you. I look forward to future conversations with you.
Okay, great.
Thank
Cheers.
you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.